All
We
right.
did it. Hello. Welcome
What's
to
up?
episode 3 of Rambling Duos. This time with more rambling and less of something else. I don't know. Anyways, we were kind of talking backstage about how whether we think basically physical copies of any kind of print media will survive, especially with an incoming generation who's more uh, introduced and more like fluent, I guess, in a sense, with digital media and digital content. And Denk actually brought up the point like the companies know this and they're actively trying to push out content that is digital only. And I would like the way that I was going to relate to it is like the oil companies know that sustainable energy is the way of the future and they're actually like actively investing in sustainable green energy, and these are like the oil companies, and they've been doing that since like the 70s. So
Well, it was huge actually. When GM announced that I think within 5 years they're gonna be totally no more gas engines, right?
yep.
And that's a big deal because that can also potentially it scares people because that also means like all those mechanics, right?
Yeah.
Like
Oh
if the
yeah. Oh,
whole
jobs.
industry
Yeah.
shifts,
Yep.
then everyone has to be retrained because it's gonna be a completely different. It's gonna be a really different system.
Absolutely. And what's it called? I think it was like Jimmy Carter is what kind of started that aspect where he's like, we need sustainable energy. He had this whole crisis of confidence speech that he did, where it was basically like Americans don't have, and I know a lot of people, some people that watch the stream are not going to be Americans, but Americans don't have a like supreme confidence in like the governing class to properly serve them, and it's a crisis of confidence, and they need to change that, and they need to focus on the future. And he just it was like OG Twitter. He just started reading comments that were sent to the White House, like a complaint box. And I'm tripping out. I
Mhm.
was like, this is the president just freaking sitting there being like, oh, Susie from Wisconsin says blah blah blah, and it was like he was going through like the stream, and I thought it was very fascinating.
Well, it's funny. Like Carter, he left super unpopular. Everyone kind of hated him in America. To be honest, like I've talked to people from
Yeah,
the contemporaries of that period, and they couldn't wait for Reagan, I guess, because they're like, man, we let this liberal fucking take over, and the economy's just tanking,
Mhm.
And I guess the Cold War, they think the Cold War had a lot to do with why we America had to act like consumerism is a moral good,
Well,
because
yeah,
it wasn't a moral. It was just it exists. It's a system. It's a tool.
yeah,
Capitalism, right?
yes,
But competing with communism, they had to act like there is a moral value to just making as much money as you can or whatever. And then
yep.
Reaganomics, and what's happened in the end is, yeah, I don't know. It's just the income inequality has gotten like beyond the French Revolution levels.
Oh, absolutely. And you mentioned the Cold War, like we didn't exactly win the Cold War. Like it was a losing battle. Like if like both countries limped out of the Cold War, like throwing so much money into just like ridiculous like uh adventures basically in a sense, and what did they really get us? Debt and fear, I guess. It was very fascinating, that
It's
whole entire good,
yeah.
it's what.
Oh, so I don't say this a lot because it can be upsetting. It can be a controversial thing to say, but I still believe it's true. Okay.
Okay, that's fine. This is perfect, perfect place to say it.
Okay. The goal of 9/11 by Osama bin Laden and the goal was to crash the American economy. Okay. And then after 9/11 happened, Alan Greenspan was like, "Uh-oh, this can collapse the economy. Let's bring the interest rate to zero." And then they created the housing bubble, and then people were creating these derivatives. Business people were creating these fake things that don't do anything. It's just like just to create wealth upon wealth with speculative, like, all this bullshit. And it ultimately led to the worst financial disaster ever, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Before he was killed, he got to witness the success of 9/11. Like, and we did it. We played right into it, and America allowed Bin Laden to win his ultimate, like, and it created the 2009 financial crash. Like, it took a while, but the series of events are connected. If 9/11 didn't happen, we wouldn't have had that interest rate, which wouldn't have created the housing bubble, which wouldn't have created the financial collapse of 2009. So he actually won, and we played right into his hands because of our greed. Because the whole premise of their attack was that we are so greedy that we don't care about other people. And then they wanted to destroy our financials, and they did it, and we played right into it. Like, I watched it all happen. I just couldn't believe it. I remember I worked in mortgages too, like, briefly during the build up to the bubble, and I remember people were just like, none of this makes sense. People knew it didn't make sense, but it was a free for all, it was a frenzy. I even had, like, even the loans I got, it was just so. I just shouldn't have been getting student loans. Like, they gave me crazy student loans, like tons of money, and I had nothing to back it up. I'm just like, what is going on? I even thought this is just insanity. And they're not doing that anymore because it created these bubbles. But it's true. Alan Greenspan brought the interest rate to zero, and Alan Greenspan also was he was part of a cabal of thinkers that loved, what's her face? Ayn Rand. And Ayn Rand is sort of like the godmother of dehumanizing economics in the Republican Party. They love her.
I know that last name.
They love her. She wrote these books about how people deserve to be great, and the weak people are weak, and great people are great, and we have to give space because the great people create the innovation, and if we try to take away from and redistribute things to people that are not as great, because she was in Russia during the Bolshevik Revolution, and she witnessed her family was displaced, and they had some wealth, and she had this very traumatic experience of having everything ripped away, spread out, and watching Russia kind of go through all this shit. So she came to America, and she created this philosophy of, I think it's called objectivism. Okay. She wrote Alice Shrugged and The Fountainhead or something, books that really exemplified her philosophy, but these books are like a little nuts, and Republicans love her books. But Alan Greenspan was one of her she had a collective of intellectuals that believed in her economic theories in New York City. And Alan Greenspan was one of these little nerdy kids that were in her little group of collective people. And then he became the chairman of the Federal Reserve, believing in the same theories that, as if, your wealth, you deserve your wealth or whatever. I mean, that's sort of the idea. And there's truth to that to a degree, but but when you say it so black and white, it negates the privilege part, privilege is what allows you to keep, doing well. I don't know, man.
That makes sense. No, I understand. I'm not sure if you know this about me, but I help produce a political podcast. And there's a lot of overlap when it comes to, let's say that a comic book gets political, and I go, oh, okay, they're referencing this. I loved Department of Truth just from that aspect, and follow the money, basically. Follow the money, and you'll get to your answers. There'll be somebody at the end where it'll be like, oh, why did he get this position? Oh, because he knew this guy who helped him get this money, and they want to have a mutual investment and protect their future income, so they're gonna lobby and create laws that help protect their interests. I mean, it's kind of corrupt in a sense, but then nobody's really so who's gonna change it, I guess, is my
I have a portfolio as well, so, and I lost I'm losing a ton of wealth. I can't even believe how much money I lost in the market recently.
Jeez,
it's blowing my mind. Yeah, but You don't sell when that happens. You don't sell in a. You got a hold. You got a hold.
Oh yeah, you wait it out. But like but like there. Oh, this is a good
Hold
transition.
or buy. I don't know, but don't sell. This is not a good time to sell. I mean,
This is a great time to buy.
it's a
Like you
good
buy.
time to buy it, but I don't know. I don't know how low because they've been predicting this crash. I know it's happening now, but they've been saying it's coming like for a
Yeah.
year.
Oh
So like
yeah,
it's
yeah.
like, you know,
My thing was coming up into this inevitable crash that I like to say. I'm gonna save up as much money as I can, and then I'm just gonna buy a bunch of stuff, hopefully property if I could get my hands on it, and try to secure my future that way. I mean, it's there's no way that the housing market right now is sustainable at where it is. There's no way. Things are selling like hotcakes, and they're overpaying, and yeah, I don't know. Hold. There you go. Pick up more shares. Yeah, exactly. Look at the people that the hedge fund that had to manage their losses with GameStop because they're betting on them to fail, and then a bunch of people got together and said, "Well, we're going to make them succeed enough for those heavy investors in them failing lose all their money." Then they have to protect their investments and kind of recoup some of their losses. So they're going to buy into it as it rises. Then it's going to make our money go up even further, and then we jump out and they double lose. Like it's man, I
well,
I, I don't like stock market.
okay, yeah. The thing is like, people. I think generally speaking, a lot of our generation, we were raised to believe like, we really need to accumulate wealth because to survive,
Yeah. Yep.
because I believe the previous generation had struggled, more of a struggle surviving. Okay.
Absolutely.
But we were, and people are struggling for sure. People are struggling,
Oh yeah, we have
but,
millions of people without homes. So
but people with money, I mean, they're like, oh, man, I lost my train of thought. It's,
stack. You said the generation says that they
oh,
stack up as much wealth as they can.
right,
We
right.
were
So they
taught
raised
that.
us that way, so that if we have any money at all, we have that programming of just like stack it, and we're like
Yeah.
obsessed with how to stack and why to stack, and but like that's not the point of life, though. Like I just like sometimes I wonder because I got into crypto and I was like spending way so much time in it. I was like, wait, this is not the point of life. Like this, it doesn't matter if it makes me like, for instance, today I'm cooking. Okay, so
Yes.
my my grandfather's dying, but he's been dying for like a year, So like, and he's 93, so and anyway, I have a friend, and
Yes.
she's just a friend in from India. She's in New York.
Hmm.
She came down with the flu. It's not COVID, but she's got an intense flu, right?
Got
So
it.
I'm like, oh, all right, let's do it, So my wife and I went to Whole Foods. I got all this shit, organic shit. I made like half a gallon of green juice without fruit in it, cold pressed. I made chicken soup from scratch with like, I'm doing
Ooh.
that, right? I'm at my mom's house doing it, and she's like, "Why are you?" She's like, "She's not your wife. Why are you doing this?" And I'm like, "Because this is all that matters. Like, to me, this is worth more than hitting it big in the stock. It's like because we have to. People feel like family is really important, right? And
Okay.
they stick to family because you can always fall back on it or whatever because only family or something. Even though family can be super abusive, but people have this like idea of family, right? I'm
Yeah.
saying let us create what family means and let us create family. We should be creating family. Why family is important, and the more you do it to people that are not actually your blood relatives, the more you understand the true meaning of family. That's what the Fast and the Furious series is
There
all
you go.
about.
Summed it up.
But and
I
this
totally agree with you. Don't get me wrong. I was just making
this
light of the
this
Fast
woman
and
I'm
Furious.
making soup and juice for, she's got
Yeah.
plenty of money.
Yeah.
She's got way more money than me. She works at PepsiCo. She's whatever. She doesn't need this. She has enough
No.
money to buy all the shit she needs or whatever.
Yeah.
But knowing that a human did that for you to get nothing is more life giving than all the money in the world.
Yeah.
It's like my grandparents, like they're old and they're like, I pay for their internet, I buy them shit, and they're just like, no, but you're poor. They're like, but you're poor. Why do you do this? You're poor, and they're like, stop, you're poor. And I was like, I told them, first of all, I told my grandparents, like, first of all, if I was rich, you'd be expecting all of this shit. Okay? It's because I'm poor that this has grave meaning.
Oh yeah,
Because
definitely.
I already know this is more important than everything. Like, and like my little bit of whatever I give to you guys so you can enjoy the last bits of your life,
Yeah.
I will live forever in. Like, I just won't have, like, I won't have guilt for the rest of my life that I didn't. It's because I did a little. I did a little. And we don't sacrifice a lot of us. We don't.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Um,
But
okay. Well,
activism requires sacrifice.
I
Knowing
agree.
what you believe
Yeah.
in requires sacrifice, not just stating things.
Yeah.
It
Oh, it's so
requires
easy. Back it up
doing
with
things.
action, please.
and
Uh,
and very few people do action,
no,
especially politically with all
it's
the
just,
politics and the.
it's easier to say things. Oh, I really think that America has a homeless problem, and I'm gonna do everything in my power to actually like try to fix it. And I've been I'm part of a group that is actively trying to lobby to get. I live next to a river, right? I'm just gonna
Mhm.
give you a little bit of a scope. I live next to a river, and
A
there's
van, right? In a van
I live in a van.
by the
Uh,
by the river. I'm sorry, that's a
it
'90s SNL reference.
I live in a
Sorry, I
van in the river because it's a
yeah,
dry
okay, in the
river right
river.
now,
Okay,
and then
yeah,
I move it out when they tell us to move.
I see.
Anyways, so all my friends in the riverbed, there's like 500 of them, and
Hmm.
they're like just living out there. And there's
Yeah.
about,
Oh.
I mean, there's okay. What inevitable if you don't have any rules, right, to govern yourself,
Hmm.
a new governance kind of sprouts out of that,
Okay.
and people who have nothing are susceptible to being taken advantage of. You can take this
Hmm.
story back to the Salvation Army. You want to know why the Salvation Army is called the Salvation Army?
No.
They oh, you don't want to know? Okay.
No, no, I
Then
don't know. I'm
oh,
sorry, I
okay.
don't know. No.
They so like next topic. And I went to the grocery store as well today, and no, the Salvation Army actually had an army,
Yeah.
and they preyed on homeless and sick and
Mm.
mentally disabled people, people who had nothing. And they said, "We will give you housing and food, but you have to serve in our army." And that's the
What?
true
What?
origin story of
Hold
the
on, hold
Salvation
on.
Army.
What kind
Yeah,
of
go ahead.
army?
Uh, I, the,
What army of God? What is it? What
it
kind of
was
army
the
is it?
it was a, a religious army, but they actually
Okay.
like fought to
Yeah.
get like territory to like expand their ranks. And it's do yourself a favor. There's got to be a documentary out there. I'm not the only one like saying about this, but do some research on Salvation Army, and understand that they have a very very dark past. And oh hey, what's up? And yeah, that'll be a fun. There's got to be a fun 45 minutes for you just to learn about like how this company that prides itself on giving back to those in need was actually taking from people in the name of God to serve in their army. And their army was terrible. They lost a lot of battles. Anyways,
I mean
uh,
that just makes me think of whole wheat bread and white bread,
okay. Wait,
because 300 years ago only poor people ate whole wheat bread and only rich people ate white bread, and today only poor people eat white bread and only rich people eat whole wheat. So that's super wild. Like, and if I looked it up, I looked up how did that happen, what the hell's going on, and it's a fascinating story. Like, there
there
is
we
a
go.
reason how it happened and where it got there, how it got there, but
Well, now as a viewer of this right now, you have some homework to do. You got to look up about the origin of wheat and white bread, and then also the origin of the Salvation Army and the reason. And then you'll get to know the reason why I never donate to them. So, there you go. Oh, yeah, sorry.
yeah.
I needed to finish just one thing before we move on.
Hmm.
I've been lobbying for 3 years to come up with a solution to get the homeless people housing, but every time we hit the roadblock of when housing is given to them, they lose 100% of their like human freedoms, and they're
Right.
monitored like
Oh,
weekly
right,
on
right,
a
right.
weekly basis,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
they
yeah.
can't do anything basically, and it's
No, you
just
can't
like
do that.
yeah,
You have to give them the freedom to fuck it up. Actually, yeah, you
yeah,
have
oh
to
yeah,
like allow
absolutely,
people, cause it's basic like human decency to allow adults to live freely, you know,
absolutely.
and it's not like, oh, you want to live free, you're poor, you cannot live freely. Like it's like saying you cannot live freely because you're poor. You know, even if that's not exactly what they're saying. That is this
No,
unconscious message
yeah,
that is being
well,
received.
it's by their it's the message that's being received by their inaction, and they're not doing anything about it. So
I I have a very close friend who's he was like fucked up on drugs all the time. He was a homeless guy, right? He was always fucked up, and it pissed me off. Actually, he would come around the front of this cafe I worked at. I managed, and he would just be such a pain in the ass. And I was just like, "Get away!" I would yell at him, and you know. And then one day, like a few years later, he just says, "Hey man, what's up?" He says hi to me. He's super friendly. He's like, "Hey man, how you doing?" And I could see like there's something really different about him. He's like, "Yeah,
yeah,
dude, I'm sober." He's like, "I'm sober," and he was like, lucid. And I was like, "Holy shit, you are sober." I could tell, like, "Holy shit, you really are sober." And
nice.
he was just struggling, you know, with stuff. And I like taught him how to use the internet. He's like 45 or something, and he came to my job once. He had an iPod Nano. I don't know if I told you the story, but
No,
and
I haven't.
it was like a fucking nothing iPod Nano, and he said it died every 15 minutes. And he asked
Yep.
me if I could help him charge it. I was like, "Oh, okay, right." And I've been working in many cafes, so he actually I met him again. I keep meeting him again at different cafes, but
Yeah.
you know, I'm like, damn. I'm just thinking like, God damn, man, this is so fucking bored, right? Then he's like, "Yo, I do have this." He pulls out a smartphone. So my uncle gave me this. I'm like, "What? Can you give me that?" I delete everything. I'm like, "It's got 20 gigs." I'm like, "Hey, this is your music player now." And he's like, he can't comprehend what I'm saying. I'm like, "This will now be able to play all the music you ever dreamed of for hours on end, you know?"
Yep.
And he's like, "Oh my God, can you download this?" And I'm like, I just, I just download Tidal and I put my credit card info in. He's just like, I'm like, "Look, anything you've ever, because Tupac is one of the main inspirations for his sobriety. It's like what keeps him
Uh,
sober almost because
awesome.
he's still homeless and people still look at him like he's a worthless piece of shit, and he
Yeah.
still stays sober. And to me, he's the most resilient human being I have ever known, actually, because I couldn't do that.
No, not
I
at
would go
all.
back to drugs. Yeah. So, anyway, he gets the thing, and he's like, "What? Nah," because he doesn't want charity, you know. And I'm like, I was like, "Listen to me, man. Like 1 hour of tip will pay for your whole month. So just fucking take it. Just I don't want to hear you talk about you don't like none of that. Forget that. Fuck that right now, right? Let's just fuck that." And then I don't know. I've like helped him out with different things throughout the year. I don't even know. I don't even have his number. I can't even like contact him, you know.
you
But
you
also
worked on his phone, but don't
but
have his
also
number.
I would let him stay at the cafes I worked at. I would give him free coffee, free stuff, and I'll let him chat with me all you know for hours about his family, his life.
That's
And
cool.
then I would no, and then I would leave. I would have to go to the basement by myself, and I would leave all the cash and everything, you know. And I'm like, "Yo, can you watch the store for me?" And I went to the basement and I let him watch the store with all that money there and I was like, "Yo, even if he took money, that's okay, but he just needs
Yeah.
to know that I fucking trust him, that I
Yeah.
do not, that I trust you so. I know you're homeless, but I trust you so much as a human being that I'm gonna leave thousands of dollars in your face that you could just steal and get away with it because you're a goddamn human being." You know, like I'm not, because you would trust any fucking rich hipster kid the same way, right? Like you wouldn't, except they're the ones that might fucking steal some money or whatever. Cause,
Yeah.
but which also happened at that same cafe. It turned out it was like this hipster girl was robbing the fuck out of the place, and I realized it was happening, and no one believed me, and I was like, oh my god, like,
Unassuming.
because it was my friend's store. I'm like, dude, I think she's robbing you, like, and they just wouldn't believe me. I'm like, dude, like, the reason I know is that I used to be a thief. I know crime. I understand crime and how people function in crime. So,
Oh, absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah.
it was just fascinating. I don't know. I'm just rambling. This is what
That's
we do.
that's the
As
that's
as
the
we
purpose. Yes, that is the purpose of right now. Working at the comic shop that I just took a job at. For those of you who don't know, I turned to my boss and I go, "Hey, what do you do about like stealing and stuff, like in the store?" And he goes, "Uh, like it's bad." And I was like, "No, no, no. Like, what do you want me to do when I see somebody like trying to steal something?" And he's like, "Well, like, don't like." I was like very aggressive about it when I was asking him. I was like, "Cause like I'll do something about it." And he's like, "No, I don't want you to like tackle anybody, but like bring it up to me, like make it known and kind of stuff like that." And I go, "Oh, okay." Like because it's obvious. Like you'll see somebody walking with like a backpack, and like a
yeah.
lot of the people that desperately just like want to keep their stuff, they'll be like, "Hey, can I put this behind the counter?" And it's like, "Oh yeah, no problem." Like throw it behind the counter. But like I don't know. There's something psychologically like thrilling about being able to like attain something for nothing. Like I always tell this story when I was in middle school. The best food that I've ever had is food that was given to me. Like
At
I
church.
couldn't I could oh no, just
Hmm.
in general. Just like the best food that I've ever
Oh
had
right.
personally
Yeah.
is food that is given to me. Like somebody's
Oh
like,
yeah.
"Hey, do you want like the last part of my sandwich or whatever?" And I'm like, "This is like the greatest like last part of this sandwich. Doesn't matter what it is." And I can never like get back to that. I'll make like the greatest meal. And
Oh.
I'll be like, "Man, it doesn't taste as good as the thing that
Oh.
was just like given to me out of the kindness of somebody's heart."
So I have a theory on that. All right. Like, so basically, like, when you feed someone and they take it or whatever, you're telling them live. It's
Yeah,
another human telling you to live. So no
there
matter
we
how
go.
good you make it for yourself, it's not going to be the same as when another human tells you, "Here, live. Hey,
Absolutely.
you live. You wanna." And that's why I'm making this goddamn soup for this woman,
Yep.
because
It all ties back together. That's what I
it'll
literally
never
said that.
be. I know the healing of that. Like,
Yeah.
it's just so different when it's given
Even
to you
though
rather than you
yeah,
bought it.
and even though she can pay for it, it's not the same at all. Like and going back to what Mama Wolf said, it's the people who are most unassuming that are doing the wrongs basically. Like the most like
Oh
evil
man,
people are the
yeah.
people who are in power. Like they're doing that because they got to power.
Yo,
And going back to what we said at the beginning, it's they were like taught that way. Ooh, the music really changed up.
when I was a kid, I met this dude at a Magic the Gathering, like a Wizards of the Coast store, and I didn't play that game. I actually didn't play. My friends were into it. I didn't play. I would just sit there and talk, right? But then this
Yeah,
dude came and he was like not he wasn't white. He looked like he came from the hood, right? So
yeah,
I was like, oh, this is interesting because I used to live in the project housing too, right? So like I had a it wasn't I'm not just like or whatever, right? So I was asking like, oh, how did you come to this? He's like, yeah, I got into it, like and we hung out, we got along very well, and then he's like, dude, let's drink, and I was like, all right, but we were in a blue state, so like the alcohol time was shut down. So he's like, dude, we'll just go to Portchester. I'm like, okay, cool, right? And I was like, oh, how do we get there? I was like, oh, we could take a train, right? So I'm like waiting for the train, and then he pulls up in a car. He's like, honk honk. He's like, yo, come on, right? And I'm with another kid, right? So we go in. I'm like, wow, you got a car, And I look at the ignition and it's ripped out. And I'm like, holy
oh
shit, it's a
no.
stolen car. And the guy in the back, he's just getting so scared because he's a white kid. He's just some white kid from the suburbs. So he's like
Yeah.
freaking out, and I'm like, this is fucking awesome. In my head, I'm like, this is awesome. But I can see how scared the guy in the back is. So I'm like, hey man, you want us to just drop you off? We'll just drop you off. And he's like, yeah, yeah. He's like, yeah, that's cool. So we dropped him off, no big deal. It was just me and him, and we were just having a day.
Yep.
We drove around. He's telling me about his life, and then I remember he played like rock music, and the radio's like, "Yo, I love rap, but sometimes I just want to rock the fuck out." And he was like, "Listen to rock, we're driving," and then we go to a gas station to get gas, and we're both underage, right?
Yeah.
And he had a big screwdriver to start the car, and it wasn't work. It wasn't working. Like, we're at the gas station, it's not working. I was like, "Oh, he had a knife. He had a knife to start the car. It wasn't working anymore." And we're like, "Holy shit, we're in the middle of nowhere in a stolen car at a gas station, right?" And what's it called? He goes inside. He talks to the guy. Comes out with this long ass screwdriver. Cause he chatted with the guy at the gas station. Gets the car going. I'm like, "Holy fuck, what?" He's like, "Yeah, man." And then we look, best night of our lives. And then I'm like, "Hey, you want to just stay over my house?" So I let him stay over my place when I live with my parents too. And they wake up and they see this random dude in the living room. I say, "Hey, he's my friend." Right? I never saw him again because he got caught with the car the next day.
Oh, no.
And I'm pretty sure he went to prison for a long, long time. Okay?
Yeah.
So a kid steals a piece of shit car, goes to prison for 10 years.
Yeah.
Or a billionaire steals trillions from the public. No jail time. Like, nothing. And I just can't wrap my head around it. Like, this kid, it wasn't a violent, like, he was the nicest guy ever. He just happened to steal a car, but I don't know.
Yeah, it's tough to wrap your head around that kind of stuff. And then just certain people can make decisions that cause like loss and travesty, and they're not responsible for those decisions. It's like, well, I made the tough call. Like, come on now.
Or they get fined a fraction of their wealth.
Oh yeah, there you go.
And but no jail
slap
time.
on the wrist.
No,
and you're out of here. Yep. Tate's saying what's up. He's never been able to say hi, and he loves your insight. And nice to meet you.
Thank you. Yeah, likewise, man. Just everywhere.
Scumbag
shifty arm.
I have a story too.
Yeah.
Sorry, just real fast. There's this shop that I go to, and they just like plaster everybody who like is like the dude throwing shit into this thing, and they say, all right, everybody gets to know. It's like a whole what was that, Fahrenheit 451, where everybody goes outside and opens their door at the same time to find the criminal. But go ahead. What were you saying?
No. So like one time I knew these cops. I'm friends with everybody, right? So I chatted with these cops, and they're like telling me that someone tried to steal the tip from the cafe the other day, right? Some kid.
Okay.
And they caught him. They fucking caught him, and they beat the shit out of him.
Oh, jeez. Okay.
And he's like sent to the hospital for fucking $50. You know what I mean? Like, that's why, even if kids steal, I never call the cop, because the reaction, the overreaction is so insane. Like, you steal $50, you get sent to the hospital, and then you go to jail. It's like,
yeah, that's.
Dude, my dad got robbed multiple times, gunpoint, in like Midtown.
Mm-hmm.
He was working at a Carvel on 42nd Street or something.
Okay.
He never took it personally, right? So like a lot of Koreans, especially like during the LA riots, there was a lot of animosity between black and Korean people, whatever. But when he gets robbed, he's just like, oh well, he's poor.
Yeah.
That's why this is happening. It's not.
It's like, not I feel you. You just made it so like you can no longer live unless you steal. So you need to do that right now.
He knew that. And then when I've been held up at gunpoint, like to my face. I wasn't. Believe me, I have witnesses there. I wasn't scared. I was very focused. Like, let's say I wasn't I didn't do nothing. I was
Everything
just super
is
focused.
Like, all right. Yep.
And how do we get through this? How do we live? But one of the things I told him, I was like, well, one, you do not want to shoot me. You don't. Okay. I know you don't want to shoot me, right? And
well, yeah, nobody goes into that aspect with
unless you're insane. Unless you're already insane, right?
That's fair. Then why even talk to them? Just shoot them.
You don't want to shoot me. I don't want to get shot. So that's an agreement, right?
Yep.
You want my money. Okay. So I was like, let's just keep this as simple and clean, And but I intentionally pretended I slowed everything down because so the thing I know about crime is you want to do it as fast as possible. And the more intelligent you are, the more you know this. And I could tell he was I can tell he had like degree, because he tricked us. Because what happened was he was like, excuse me, and he had a little Starbucks bag. Comes up
Yeah.
I go across the street to help this guy. That's what happened. He goes, excuse me. He's like, yeah, what's up? He's like, have you ever seen a bullet before? And I'm like, what? Like, I can't even comprehend the sentence. Like, he said, have you ever seen a bullet before? And I thought, is that a type of new hat called a bullet? Is it like a hat? That's what I was thinking, right? And he pulls out a revolver, cocks it. He's like, all right, money. Now, like, me and my buddy, right? And my friend was on the phone, okay? He doesn't even know this happening, okay? And he puts the gun this close to his... And I'm like... And I go, oh, hey, listen, he doesn't know what's going on. Dude, let's just relax right now because he doesn't know what's happening. Please, you know? He's like... My friend sees the gun. He's like, okay, gotta go. Anyway, I slowed it down. So I pretended I was in shock.
Yep.
And... I slowed things down just enough so he didn't know it was intentional. So I pretended this was my emotional response, and I was so slow, and I was pretending like I had a hard time understanding him, but I was like lying, and I was staring him right in the eyes because it's really hard to shoot someone staring you right in the eyes if you're sane, right? So, and I was gaming all of this, and I was like, okay, I'm just slow. I was like slowing down. I was like, oh. And I didn't say a lot, so I was like I was going to make him think I didn't speak English well. You know, I was like playing into everything, right? And I opened it really slow. I looked him in the eyes. I took out the money really slow. But my buddy had $800 on him because it was Friday night. Because that's why he was robbing everybody. It's Friday night, right?
Yeah,
but because I was so slow and distracting, my friend took out just 20, put it on the ground. I lost 80. He lost 20. He took the money, ran, and then my friend was drunk, so he yelled. He's like, we're gonna get you, mother. He's like yelling, oh shit. And I'm thinking like, what the fuck, dude? You're yelling at the guy with the gun. But but later I was like, oh man, I kind of felt great that he yelled. You know, at least somebody yelled at him, you know?
Yeah.
Then we went to the police station. We tried to get him, but it was just like, he was like, we're looking through all these mugshots, and the cop's like, remember, you gotta be 100% positive. I'm like, 100% positive? Yeah. I was like, okay, out of these 1,000 photos, maybe it's 5 people, but I'm not 100% about any of this. So
No.
I was like, all right, we got to go. We're out of here because that's just not happening. Like, what are we talking about? You're going to pull random people based on a book of photos, and someone might look like the person that robbed you, and then you just grab an innocent person that just looks kind of like the guy. Like, what are we talking about? Wait, that's acceptable?
Yeah, that's modern like crime fighting and like
yeah, that's police work.
Yep.
What are we talking about? Anyway, and then I was like, let's get the fuck out of here.
Yeah. Just completely like piggybacking off of what you just said. Fingerprinting, bogus. There, like forensic science, there's not much like, there was a guy. He was in the military, so his fingerprints were obviously in the system. He gets convicted of a crime that he wasn't even in the same country when it was committed. And because his fingerprints matched some random person.
Oh, yeah.
And there was a slip up with his defense, and he ended up going to jail for 5 years for it. And then they finally catch the other dude doing another crime and confesses to the other crimes that he did. And then they're like, oh, wait, this guy who's in the military, he's innocent. And fingerprinting is not like, don't watch CSI and think that it's real. Like a lot of us can like watch media and say like, oh, like some of that must be how it's done. It's all hogwash.
In terms of how I react to like these like intense situations or whatever, it's more that the first thing I do is I don't take it personally. Like,
oh yeah,
anytime
no.
Well, no, there's a lot of Asian like fucking hate or whatever. Like I've actually been physically attacked just for being Asian during this time. Like, so it happens. That's actually. So,
nuts.
but see, I can take it personally and think like, what the fuck? Who are these people, right? Or I can realize this is part of a bigger system, and I happen to be caught in the crossfire at that moment. And I call that trickle-down racism. I feel like, other people of color have been treated so badly by other people
Yeah.
and then they take it out on us because we're seen as like passive people that are easy to bully. And I'm just saying that's what's going. So like, and then
Okay.
and Asians are embraced by conservatives for, like we prove racism. There is some validity to racism or something. Like that's what that like we've been used against other people of color. Asians have been used as like, but look at them, look at them. So there's like a
Yeah.
real reason why there would be resentment and animosity towards us from people of color
That's
because
so dope. That's so
we are
stupid.
used as a cudgel to rationalize racist policies and stuff. But you can't take it personally. So like when I get robbed,
No.
whenever I get attacked, but sometimes it's hard because when I got the gunpoint thing, I was like, okay, I can't be scared of people. You know what I mean? I was like,
No.
I'm not letting this fear enter my body. I'm not gonna be paranoid because of it. Like, but I had to actually make a really concerted effort to
Oh
make
yeah.
sure my
Yeah. Yeah.
brain didn't go there because I could already see the brain going there. I'm like,
Yeah.
no,
You were
fuck
you
you,
were one
brain.
hiccup from like not being here. Like that's a reality in a
And
sense.
that
Let's say
caused
that you made
my
like a jerk movement and it scared him and he pulled the trigger. Like
yeah.
that. It's that simple. So every single thing that you did during that is was very very calculated,
Uh,
which is crazy.
no, no,
I
no. But I'm just I lost.
That's fine.
I'm sorry,
Let me
I
say
got
one thing.
confused. Yeah.
Let me say one thing, and then if you regain it, let me know. So I was on the metro or the trolley. I'm not sure what anybody calls it. The subway. And I was on the last train out, and it was on a Friday night. And there's a lot of drunk people. There's a lot of homeless people. And I get onto the train, and this is like 2 hours into my journey. And this dude just like comes in and he's just freaking livid. He's drunk. He's drinking. He's actively drinking. And he's like, I want to kill a white dude tonight. And I'm like, oh crap. There's only two white dudes on this bus and are on the train. And he's going around like getting in people's faces, telling him like one by one going in, and he goes up to the first white guy and is like yelling at him, and he just keeps his calm, doesn't say anything, just nods his head like, yeah, I get it, man, like no problem. And he lets him go, and I go, good, okay, so I'm probably not going to get picked because he still has to go through like the entire line. And he comes up to me, gets just like right in my face, and he's just telling me these things. I was like, yeah, yeah. He's like, you keep cool, man, otherwise like you're going to be the one I choose. I'm like, oh god damn it, man. I'm just trying to like get somewhere. And I'm sitting there, and from my perspective, I really wanted to know why. And I know
Hmm.
it's probably stupid, but it's like I really wanted to know why. Like most
Hmm.
rational people would be get off the train, go into the other car, just avoid the dude, like you're good. But I
Hmm.
stayed for like 2 or 3 stops because he was just so vocal about his story. He was telling his entire story to everybody. Like
Hmm.
the real reason behind what he wanted was he just wanted somebody to listen, and he was
Yeah.
drunk, and it turns out that his father, who was white, killed his mom at gunpoint, and he's trying to actively kill his father, but he can't. So he's trying to take it out on somebody else. So he's trying to
Yeah.
assimilate
Yeah.
like a white
Yeah.
individual as that.
All forms of aggression are actually a manifestation of self-hatred.
Mm-hmm.
Period. Like, believe it or not, it's not like, I think people don't really get this. Like, there you can be angry. That's okay. There's a place for anger because it can create action, but
Correct. Yes.
to hold it is it's not doing that anymore. And it's because and usually like if you get upset about little things, it's because you hate your life now, and then you want to punish anyone in your path
Yeah.
because that feels better than feeling like you're being punished. So you just want to punish other people. And Perry made a comment about pull those people to investigate, I guess, the mug shots or whatever. The only
Yeah.
problem is there's too many mug shots. Like the likelihood of that person being the one is way smaller than we realize. And then when you pick up an innocent person, dude, I know I have innocent friends that were taken by the cops being investigated for burglaries and shit. And they were
Yeah.
so innocent. They were not only were they so innocent, they do everything right. They do everything they think society tells them they're supposed to do, and they still get taken into the station. And it's like it is so traumatic. That is such a traumatic experience, especially if you're trying to do everything right. And that's happening all the time. And dude, like I like walk down the street, fucking 10-year-olds, right? They're getting pulled over by the cops. And they're like, yo, what are you doing? There's a smile. The kids are like, nothing, nothing. They're like, pull up your shirts, pull up your shirts. And the kids pull up their shirts and they're rotating and they're
Yeah.
smiling like this is casual shit for them. And I'm like, what the fuck? Because if this was 10-year-old white kids, this would be the worst day of their lives. Like they would shit themselves. They're like, lift our shirts? What? You know, they'd be so scared and it wouldn't
Yeah.
be normal at all. But this shit is normalized with little kids, children.
Which is
Not
nuts, yeah.
criminals, fucking just children.
I understand.
I don't think people realize what kind of effect that has on the psyche when it's not the same. We're not living in the same world. Like, I don't know.
Well, look at look,
I
look at
guess
kids.
it's obvious I'm a liberal, but
Oh no, I would have never guessed that. Look at people who are children that were born and raised at the beginning of the pandemic. Like
yeah,
they know that masks in public are just what we do. They don't understand why. Like they just know that, oh yeah, we have to do this. And like going forward, that's gonna have less like pushback on people wearing masks in the future because everybody's
yeah,
gonna be like, oh yeah, I did that when I was a kid. Like no problem.
yeah,
Like
yeah. But you know
if
what?
it's normalized by people. So
But you know how like it's so like Asia, the rate of infection in Asia is like pretty low, you know, and they don't even have the number of they don't have vaccines like we do.
I know.
It's because they already wear masks. They already been wearing masks pre-pandemic.
Oh yeah, I did too.
Yeah,
To
yeah,
be honest, I wore
right.
masks for
Okay.
like 4 or 5 years before the pandemic. So
So then when shit got real, they all masked up, and it
yep,
just didn't spread as much, and
yeah.
because there
Oh, and
wasn't
they
this
took
whole. Because culturally, it was already acceptable in culture already. It's just America's
yes,
so against covering. You can't walk into a bank with them. Pre-pandemic, you couldn't even walk into a bank with the mask like that.
yeah.
They'd be like,
It was
"You
against
gotta
it was
go."
against the law. Yeah, you had to
Yeah,
go. Like we need to see who you are in case you decide to rob this place.
and this idea of I guess in Asia they're just more about the collective. We have to focus on the collective, and the elderly are cherished in Asia. They're not. They're just not here. It's not the same. Like we think of elderly as stupid people in America, but in Asia it's so different, and that's why they just all fucking masked up right away because to them, an old person dying over COVID is devastating. Whereas for us, we're like, well, they're old.
Yeah.
I'm healthy. They're old. Like we're already seeing old people separate from us in America. They don't
Yep.
see it that way in Asia, actually.
Like an American philosophy is when your individual gets old and elderly and starts developing like dementia and Alzheimer's and whatever that it takes, like they can't do things by themselves. The idea is just to put them into a home, get them away, and just let them kind of do their
I
thing.
mean,
Like
it's a little more.
I
I think
hate gerontology for that. Go ahead.
it's a little. I think it's a little more complex because everyone's moving so much, right? You know what I mean? Like,
Okay. Makes sense.
you know what I mean? Like, so 200 years ago, you're in the same town as your dad is in the same town as your dad is in the same town. Like,
Yeah.
fucking forever. But now everyone is always moving like
Oh, I see what you mean.
crazy.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
uprooting and shift, it's much harder. So it's
Yeah, that makes
way
sense.
easier to have multi-generational nuclear families when there's less fucking movement, you know?
Yeah.
And America's like all about searching for your rich, that journey for that quest for your God-given
You know,
manifest.
Gonna sound like an old timey prospector going for that gold. And Tate, I agree with what you just said. In fact, the comic book that I'm helping create is everybody is green, and we chose people to all be the same color for 3 specific reasons, but you got to read to find out. So yeah, one
Hey,
of
do
them
you
is
remember
racism. Yeah.
So
What's
there's
up?
a famous joke. It's been around for decades, right? And now it's like doesn't exist. Okay, very famous joke. It just
Okay.
disappeared in the late '90s.
Go for it.
It's the joke of a housewife looking at her ass in jeans and asking her husband, "Is does my ass look big in these jeans?" Right? And the husband has to say no, otherwise he's in deep trouble. That's the joke.
Yeah, it's like an old
And this
timey joke. Yeah.
old timey joke. But then I would argue Jennifer Lopez, Waiting for Tonight, created a paradigm shift in America where a big ass was now celebrated by everyone in America. Instead of like before, it was just like certain groups. But after that music video with Jennifer Lopez, it completely changed. And
I don't
having a
think
big butt, having a big butt was seen as like a huge, like awesome thing. But pre
uh,
that, it wasn't. It was there was the joke was like, I want a small, I don't want a big butt, and that's because of our diversity, of course, right? Because before it was like, I mean, just that's like part of it. It's part of the diversity. It's changing the way we see beauty. Is shifted so dramatically. Where now
correct.
we wanted the small in the 1992. We wanted the American mainstream public or the idea of one monolithic culture wanted a tiny butt. Post 9/11, everyone wanted that big butt, big juicy butt. Um, and I don't know. Most of you should be old enough to remember that shit.
I have two things to say. Number one, I don't think that it was that music video that changed everything. I think it was just
No,
a general cultural shift.
it was, but that was
Okay.
that was like the big signal. That was the
Okay.
tipping point. I'm saying that was
Okay.
the tipping point
Popular media.
moment.
I understand.
Yeah,
Yes,
it's
it was
like
already there.
Kanye.
It just needed something. Yes.
Look,
What's up?
people like get annoyed with Kanye West all day, right? Right.
Yeah.
But Kanye West, when his album Graduation beat 50
Oh,
Cent's album at the
yeah.
same time,
Yep.
it ended the
2009.
dominance of gangster rap, and it changed. It allowed more flexibility and space to define black masculinity outside of just being a gangster guy with a gun that drug deals, right? Kanye West just totally like there was other people trying to do it,
Oh
but
yeah,
he's the one
Nelly
that was the
was one of them.
tipping point.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he was a tipping point where it was like so cool not to give a shit like not to. It's like you don't need to give a shit about guns to be cool. Like he made it
Yeah.
that way. Like and I would argue that impact, that cultural impact, may have saved millions of lives.
Yeah. No. Okay, that makes sense. Because it wasn't about the money and the drugs and the drug dealing and the get rich.
Well,
Well, I
it
mean,
was
maybe
no
with
because
mumble rap right now is still going back to that.
pre that moment they didn't think it could ever happen. Actually, like the debate
Okay,
was
or be
like
successful. Yeah,
no one can
in
ever
that.
no one can beat 50 Cent. No gangster rapper, no big gangster rapper will be ever taken down by a non-gangster rapper.
Yeah,
And then it happened. And that was like I don't know. Sometimes like, sometimes money, sometimes like the people talk, the people change things, like
yeah.
I don't know. Like the reason we don't have RBST milk right now, like
Okay.
the growth hormones in milk,
Yeah.
they used to be in all the milk. And the FDA, there's no regulation against it, right? So we use growth
Correct.
hormones to make extra milk,
Yep.
banned in Canada, banned in Europe. It's banned, 'cause all kinds of reasons, right?
Yes.
But now all the milk companies are proud to display that they're RBST free, right? Why are they doing that? Are they doing that because they're good people now? No. What happened was Walmart owns like 30% of the grocery market share in America. And Walmart decided their customers don't like RBST milk. So Walmart told the milk industry, we will not carry your milk if it has RBST hormones or whatever.
Yeah.
Milk companies all complied because they wanted that Walmart money. And now they're all acting like they did it out of their moral like fortitude.
Yeah.
It was literally like the customers asking Walmart, please stop buying this shit. And that's what happened. Like sometimes we have more
Shane.
power to affect change than we think. And that was the people. That was the people complaining enough, not wanting this. That actually, because the laws weren't doing it. The laws weren't getting rid of this toxic shit that might be carcinogenic, creating. Oh
I
yeah,
totally
Kanye
agree.
did marry the biggest, but that is the.
That's the storybook ending, if I've ever seen one. But I totally agree. The grassroots movements can change Like literally, it started from the bottom, and now we're still at the bottom, but
But
we can grow
but
up.
but we have amnesia. We don't know that it was us. It
Okay, fair,
wasn't the
very fair.
goodness of the corporations to thinking like, oh, you know what, the government is wrong. This thing that makes us extra money that can hurt people, we shouldn't use it. I think the government is wrong. Like, no, they were lobbying the government to allow it. You know, like they were the same people lobbying to let
Yep,
it be legal.
yep. They just want to sell
And now
milk.
that they're trying to own that that was their choice. And I'm like, no, fuck you guys. That wasn't your choice. In fact,
Yeah,
if you could get away with it, you'd still do it. So
yeah, because you
fuck
can
all of
sell
you.
more for less, and you'd make more money. So yeah, I agree.
I mean, I might be
Let's see.
biased about milk because I'm lactose intolerant, but these are facts, yo.
Uh,
Look it up.
I aren't. Isn't everybody lactose intolerant because we don't have the proper enzymes to digest milk?
Well,
Like
but see,
technically,
like, yeah, but European white people have the most of the enzyme, right? Right? So, like, I guess they were struggling so hard living in caves and shit that they had to finally drink the milk of other animals to like make it, and like enough people added that was entered into the genome because enough people had to like desperately just drink the milk of other animals to survive. And if you didn't have the genes that allowed you to survive, like if you didn't diarrhea to death, you lived, and then it replicated that gene. I mean,
I understand. I'm laughing
that's
because
why like these other countries they didn't have to rely solely on the milk of other animals for
right.
sustenance. It's like it's just when agriculture gets out of whack, and that's why so many people are lactose tolerant. But it
That makes
required
a
desperate
lot of
measures.
a lot
Yeah,
of like genetic modification over like survival of the fittest. I've just never heard the term diarrhea to death, and that's why I was laughing. uh,
that's what happens. Actually, most of the time, you diarrhea to death. We're just in
um,
America that doesn't happen as much. So like,
Mama Wolf, I totally agree with what you said. By the way, so she's just talking about with people who are raised to be more like safe with germs and touching your face, which I've done multiple times. Uh, like you need to be more conscientious of your environment and how it affects you, and going like the moral of this couple past stories that we said, it starts like with grassroots movements, and you can actually lobby yourself because it's just people that are doing the lobbying. I mean, a lot of things don't get changed without money, and you find that out real fast, and it's easy to get demoralized, but you gotta keep at it. Get enough people together, you can change. You can literally change things. You can use your purchasing power to actually make positive change.
I will say this about like changing the world.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a firm believer that it starts with yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't want to hear anyone telling anyone else how to live until I know they're living the values they're talking about on a person to person basis. So like,
Yeah.
I'm making fucking soup for somebody. I pay for a title account for a homeless guy, but it's not part of this organization, or it's not for me to like post about on
Yeah.
Twitter. It's like it's just what I'm literally doing it with the people near me,
Yep.
living the values I believe in. And that's how I know I have those values, but that's why I also know it's horse shit when a lot of liberals talk shit. I'm just like, oh, because I'm a liberal, but I'm like, yeah, but you don't fucking do nothing. So this is all fucking, and you're just regurgitating talking points. Look, here's an idea, right? I told you this NFT? Did I tell you this like
I've never heard you talk about NFTs.
blockchain idea, like an idea for the Republicans and the Democrats to get along? So Republicans love tax cuts for giant corporations, or
Oh,
like giving
that's
money to
interesting.
giant corporations.
Yeah,
And
Promiscuous Time Traveler actually just said people who donate in the spotlight are most likely doing
yeah,
it for the tax break. That's
tax
interesting.
break.
That yeah,
Democrats like to give out money to anyone, right? So this is the negative, way of describing. So Republicans like giving money to rich, Democrats like
yep,
giving money to poor. Okay. So how do
yes,
we get them? So what if you gave a massive, when the time is right, tax cut to the rich, right? To
yes,
corporations.
yep,
But in return, you get massive shares of these companies. and then you intentionally turn these shares into a new derivative
Okay.
with blockchain technology, and you give a piece of it to the entire American public. So you give the money to the rich people, and then you give a piece of it to the entire American public. And then if you're poor, you can cash out and get cash, or like a good entrepreneur, you can hold it and let it grow. So that pleases fucking everyone on the political spectrum. It's like, you just gotta, like, I'm sick of people saying, like, I don't agree with you, I don't agree with you. It's like, actually, you can figure out a way, because you shit, and you have to eat to shit.
You're just
if you don't want to shit, you have to stop eating, but you can't do that. You have to eat. So you gotta eat and you gotta shit. Like, it's.
I know.
Everyone's making it so much harder than it really is. It's not as hard as people think. It's just.
It's not.
We're
It's
told
not
it
just
is.
yes and no. Like the two spectrums of like political field. A lot of the times when I listen to both like chatter back and forth at each other, I'm like, you're saying the same thing, but you're just tweaking one little thing, and that one little thing is like worth going to war for. Like, I'm not going to give up this, because the second I give up this, like, people aren't willing to compromise. You're going to take more, and it's just.
I honestly, so I'm a bleeding heart liberal, and I love to go to this like super Trumpy New Hampshire town and hang out with a bunch of Trumps. I fucking love it, because
Okay.
then I really get to test what I am, who I am, what this means. Because a progressive is not supposed to hate. You're not allowed to hate. I'm sorry, but these progressives that are hating people, like, you can't do that. You're not. Even if you're being hated, you can't hate back, because then you're continuing the hate cycle. Like, you're not allowed. It's against the law of progressives to hate. So I will intentionally go to places where it's the people I'm supposed to hate, and really get along with people. Like, really get along. Like, and you know, of course, I have certain advantages. I'm pretty charismatic, and I'm very convincing. So I have certain advantages, but still, I let them all know. I don't hide who I am or nothing, and I tell them, like, what's wrong with certain.
Oh man, I'd probably hide it. I'd hide behind my whiteness, and I'd pretend that I'm one of them, because like.
Oh no, I couldn't because I found out, like, so I was there, and then this other guy came. He's like, "Oh, hey, I heard about you. I heard there was a rich Chinese guy in the neighborhood."
You can't hide behind it. I understand.
No, but they called. That's what they were telling. They were telling each other in the neighborhood. There's some rich Chinese guy over there.
Yeah,
I'm not rich. I'm not Chinese. Yeah. Nope. But that was the aura. So I was playing into that a little. I was like being the mysterious.
Well, since
Asian
you brought
rich
it up,
man.
Why even go there though? Why even put yourself through that? What do you personally?
Because I went to go visit a good friend of mine who had his leg was broken recently. He has hip surgery. He had all this shit going on, and I was meditating, and his name this is actually what happened. Believe it or not, I was meditating. His name fucking pops in my head. I text him, "Hey man, how you doing, man? Just letting you know, I love you, man, And he's like, "Oh, I'm good." I'm like, "Hey, I should come visit," because I'm always like, "I'll come visit," I never visit, right? Yeah. He's like, "Okay, yeah, cool." And I was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna come." He's like, "Cool," but I just got out of surgery, broken leg. I got the broken hips, all this shit. I gotta go to court, all this stuff. I'm like, and in my head, but I'm like, "Oh shit, I'm supposed to be there." Like it hits me. Like the reason his name came in my meditation was because. You guys can roll your eyes, but the universe was signaling to me that this person needed help, and I was being activated to go to this guy and fucking help him, and I helped him out like crazy all week, and I cooked for him, I fed him, and he's like a 50-year-old white dude,
Yeah.
But he's so kind and giving to everyone in this conservative neighborhood, and they don't know he's like secretly a holy man. They don't know, because I know he secretly knows like the truth of reality, but he doesn't brag about it. No one knows that about him, and he just helps people. And I was like,
you
holy
need to
shit,
survive.
man.
Yeah, I understand.
But he does it in Trump country. You know what I mean? Like
That's...
because, and he's a liberal too. Like because that's how you challenge your values. You don't fucking just sit with your own
You
fucking
don't
tribe and like.
Yeah.
Say something and they repeat it and you all feel great about yourselves. I'm like, what
we
the
did
fuck?
it.
You don't know anything. Yeah.
I mean, I live in a house with two very staunch Republicans, so that's my life, and I choose to live here. Is it in a slow cooker
No,
or
so so it's a very complex chicken soup. So
okay?
I roasted a whole chicken and I separate the meat from the carcass and I put that in and I roasted vegetables like carrot, onion, celery, all this shit. I'm just gonna boil that and that's boiling very slowly for a long time. And then I'm gonna throw everything away, all the shit away, like the carrots, the onions, and I have another set of carrots, celery, potato, stuff like that I cook very very short period so that it still
Yeah,
has
so you
its
don't
like
cook out all the stuff. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
but all the cooked out vegetable flavors still in there. You know, it's
Okay,
like
that's fair.
multiple
Oh, okay. So you get the same flavoring, but then you also get the crispness, like you basically just threw it in there. I like
because
that.
I toss out the first batch of vegetables,
Yeah, because
put in
it's
the
drained
second
of all its
batch,
nutrients, anyways.
and it's mush. There's no
Yeah,
texture, you know.
yeah,
And then I undercook it just a little, like the vegetables, so that whoever's reheating it will finish exactly. Like that's how much fucking work I'm putting into this goddamn
it's
soup.
like what's it called when you don't cook the pasta all the way and al dente.
Oh, al dente, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
and
My wife
you
hates al
leave it
dente.
there. That's why not? Because you if it's you
She likes
can't
soft
just
things. Hey, she likes soft.
okay,
She
that's
likes it.
fair.
I don't know.
But like I'm a leftover kind of guy. Like I will cook for like I'll cook like a big thing and then I eat it constantly, but I'll undercook it so that I can prepare the rest of it later. Like
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah. That's because that's long term thinking. That's and also when she realizes how different it is, it just tells her, hey, someone loves you. Like just someone fucking loves you. Like
Yeah.
because
The deeper
there's
meaning to that
not
is
enough
awesome.
self love going on. You know, like
Nope.
and I wish everyone knew they are love. Like their very existence is love.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's
The
not
the
supposed to happen. Yeah.
going back to when you said, "Oh, you could roll your eyes at like this kind of thing," and I
Oh
go,
yeah, yeah.
you can roll your eyes at anything, but like the reason that this podcast even exists is because like of a similar circumstance of just happenstance and perfect timing. Like
I
roll your
I
eyes all
do.
you want, but we wouldn't be here without that kind of stuff. So
Oh, right, right, exactly. Yeah, because I was asking the universe for like a chat partner. I couldn't figure, and then
I hadn't talked to you
Kyle
in
reached out.
months,
Yeah, the
like
next day,
literally.
like within hours, he reached out to me,
It was
and I
freaking
told my
crazy.
wife that shit that night. So like, there's a witness to this. So like, I'll even do like remote healing,
Yeah,
okay, with people in really serious conditions and shit. But
why
part of the
not?
rule is, I don't tell them I'm doing it. That's part like because if I tell them I'm doing it, right? There's some placebo shit going on, right?
Okay, fair.
I don't tell people I'm doing it. And I just listen, and then I find out miraculously they're like getting better. Like, um, yeah, and that's happened though so far. So far, it's correlation, not causation. It works 100% of the time. Like, people come, and the last person I did this with was fucking paralyzed, and they had like a 10% chance of ever walking again. And I was doing this shit, not telling them. I told the person, I was like, don't tell them. And he fucking moved. He moved his feet. He moved his feet. It
Okay,
happened.
okay.
It fucking happened.
I'm gonna pump my brakes a little bit,
Yeah.
but at the same time, I'm also going to affirm a certain aspect of it. I have like I've been able to talk myself out of being sick. Like your
Yeah,
body
yeah,
is
yeah.
more capable of doing things than you realize that it is.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And coming from a background in cognitive neuroscience,
Hmm.
like literally what I studied, we don't know enough about the central nervous system. We don't know enough about the brain, the spinal cord, or the neck. Any of this region, we are so lost and in the woods about. Like we're rapidly learning as fast as we can, but it's not enough. Like your brain is more powerful than you know, mainly because modern science doesn't know a lot about the brain. So, anyways,
I
go
took
ahead.
I took AP statistics, and then I discovered in AP statistics that uh, the way drug companies know the drugs do
Uh huh.
things is completely based on statistics. Like they actually don't know what the fuck is going on. Yeah, no. And a lot of drugs are created for another reason and then marketed for a completely like Viagra was for heart illnesses, conditions. Now
Yep.
it's a boner pill, you know? And they know like 0.2% of the population will die from it. We don't know
Yeah.
why, you know? But
It just happens. It's a side effect.
99.08% of the population will get giant boners, you know, like, but they don't know what the fuck's going. Like, it shocked me, honestly. It shocked me to the core when I learned that they don't actually know exactly why things happen. Like, they can only make really good guesses. But I used to believe, I was like, oh yeah, they know.
Yeah.
Science knows. And then I realized, like, oh, they don't know anything. They're just
No.
taking really good guesses. It's all
Yeah,
like
shut
really
the-
great
I mean,
guesses.
okay. They do know enough to take educated guesses.
Yeah, educated. Right.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. But it shocked me that it wasn't fact, like pure
Yeah.
knowledge. You know, that shocked
Look
me.
look more into forensic science. Like I was telling you, you thought forensic science is like this whole scientific thing. No, they have no clue what they're doing.
Well, you know, a
Forensic
lot
science
of.
is a sham. Go ahead.
I mean, apparently, a lot of police work was changed because of Sherlock Holmes. The creation of Sherlock Holmes changed. It actually created
I don't want to
the
believe
forensic
that's
science.
true.
Oh yeah, look it up. It's
I will.
fucking nuts.
I will.
Because police work was like, oh, he robbed it. Who robbed him? And you go, who robbed him? Smack, smack, smack. Who did it? You did it. Smack, smack. That was police work in the 1890s or whatever.
I understand
And then-
that. Yeah.
And it was so sexy, this idea of this intuitive fucking precock fucking
Yeah,
looks at the context clues and without raising a fist. And it was
Deductive
so
reasoning.
yeah, it was so romanticized that it became like it had to be added into like people started to believe that's what the police are, and the police were like, oh yeah, that's what we do, you know, like it was. And
Good on that.
And it's a weird thing where fiction manifested in reality. This is this thing about Sherlock Holmes.
Nuts.
That didn't exist before Sherlock Holmes, but post Sherlock Holmes, there's a bunch of Sherlock Holmeses. It created forensics. Like Sherlock Holmes was the invention of forensic science. Like it's fucking stupid. Like
I want to like hit
Hey,
the pause button on the stream so we can take a break and digest that for a minute because
oh yeah, the thing about my healing or whatever is that yeah, I don't tell
Oh, yeah.
anyone. I don't make
Here we go.
money off of it.
Yep.
It's like a bunch of things. There's like certain rules I have to stick to because I know it'll be just corrupted. Like as soon as I take money, let people know, it's fucking done. Like I know it's over. In fact,
Okay.
there's a famous. It was an episode of Radio Lab. There was a hypnotist, right? This guy in England, 1800s, learned
Is it a
hypnosis. and he's like,
show?
Radio Lab is a documentary program on
Okay.
NPR. Okay,
Cool.
it's
Okay.
all very well researched, right? So this
Got it.
hypnotist, he would start to cure like wild things. He would say like, okay, you're gonna be cured of this, and he's like, wow, it's working. And then he got a guy with elephantitis, like, and his whole
Oh,
leg
yeah,
was
yeah.
all fucked up. And
Yeah.
he said it will go away. He hypnotized him, right? And it was fucking gone. It was gone the next incurable disease. He cured it with hypnosis. Then they go to the Royal Academy of Sciences, and he's sitting there. He's like, "Yeah, I did it." And then someone says, "But that's impossible, right?"
Yeah.
And that phrase just rings in his ear so hard, and he's never able to do it ever again. He can't cure shit after that. It was
What?
as soon as the guy said it's impossible, and he tried it again, and he couldn't cure shit after that.
Jeez. Okay.
That's a true story. I don't know, like. I have a massive disconnect. I love everyone and will help you heal. However, I cannot do the same for myself. Being an empathic person is a very hard thing to carry. Okay, well,
Absolutely.
I'll tell you this. I don't know if you're saying you cannot do the same, like you don't do it for yourself, or I mean,
Saying that he struggles to do it for himself.
right?
That he has no
but
help helping others.
But are you allowing yourself to receive from other people?
Ooh.
So I find that I've noticed a lot of very giving, caring people, they have a really hard time receiving. Okay,
Absolutely.
and
I
you,
can
you
name,
can't
like,
do
3
that. You have
instances. Yeah.
you have to receive, or you're not allowing the loop to close. There is no loop. Like if you can give but you can't receive, there's no loop. And when it comes to love, we want to create infinite loops. you must receive. And
Huh.
yeah,
It's hard to
what's it
ask
called? And
in
also
general.
like helping others
Yeah.
um becomes an act of self-love. Because so the reason I started helping everyone or helping a lot of people like wildly, and I've done so many things. Like if I tried to list it, you wouldn't believe it. You would not believe how many people I've helped and how hard I've helped them, right? My mom
Yeah.
thinks I'm fucking nuts, right?
Well, you are nuts,
Um
but for a different
right,
reason.
right. But the reason I did that, but the reason is not because oh, I'm a good person, all right? It was that I decided the world was fucked and everyone was selfish and horrible and I wanted to die, right? And I was
Yeah.
like, all right, all right. And then I accepted everything's fucked. And I was like, all right, so what do I do? I have to make the world I wish
Less
existed.
less fucked.
I'm the one. I have to do that. I have to do it. Otherwise, the world is fucked. Like I'm the only one that could change. We're the only. You're the only one that could do. Only you can change the world, right? So if you start doing that in your everyday life, you'll notice the whole world starts changing, and the way you see the world starts to flip on it. And it also makes you love yourself in the end. Like so, even if you're depressed and you go into deep despair, if you've just been selfish and self-absorbed, and you get to the point where you're like, I'm worthless, that could happen, right? But if you do actually help fucking people, and you get depressed, and you get to almost down to that point, you can't honestly say you're worthless. You just can't do that anymore because you know for a fact you help other people. So you cannot, like logically, you cannot be worth less. That's why I think serving really can be a stopgap measure from the total depths. And it teaches you, especially if you help people that don't deserve it or are not your friends. That's what I'd also say. Are you helping people that are not your friends? Not your, you know what I mean? Because if you're helping just friends and family and people you know, that could be more transactional than you realize,
Oh yeah, definitely.
and it could be trying to be loved. But if you do it to strangers, people that you really don't know, it becomes like you're making love. Like you're creating love out of thin air, and it just otherwise you think, oh, family, you gotta stick to family because that's all you got in the end, right? Like a lot of people have this belief like this is all we got. So then you have like a lot of abusive family members and shit. But
Yep.
or we can decide no. I think family should be about people loving each other, respecting each other. So I'm gonna create family. And this is how my cult formed. But I'm just kidding. I'm not forming a cult. But you create the family of the world you wish existed, and you live by that. Therefore, it exists. Otherwise, it doesn't. Otherwise, you don't know if it exists. You actually don't know if there's any good in the world unless you do it because of social currency. Because people get so much. You get so much out of doing good. The only way you know it's real is if you do it and get nothing in return. That's your only proof that there's
Yeah.
any good. Like that's why I do it. So I don't. And then I enter and I get into a baseline state. Like doing good things for everyone. It sucks. It's a struggle.
Hey, you have no
And then
time for yourself,
and
and
then
then
I'm at baseline. I'm not like, woo, I'm great, yay.
yeah,
Otherwise, if I don't do that shit, I'm here. This is where I'm normally at,
yeah.
and my antidepressant is helping people, basically. And I had to do it. Like I felt like it was the only way I was gonna survive.
Huh.
Yeah, but it came out of deep suffering and despair. Like that's part of my point. It's not like I'm like just love each other, love. It's like no, like because everything fucking sucks. Choose love and fight for love. Like don't, like fucking. It's not passive at all. Love is active.
Very much so. Sorry, I was crying a little bit, but it was because I yawned, and also because
No,
also
no.
because what you said was beautiful.
Okay, homebound 8 years. Anxiety has crippled me, and the world has become so scary for me. The comic book community is slowly elevating me to more outgoing once more.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm gonna get Tate on eventually. We're gonna have some nice
effing.
conversations.
God bless the comic book community, honestly, because my biggest surprise in the YouTube comic book community was discovering that half of the people with channels have extreme social anxiety and are
Yeah, no
introverted.
doubt.
Yeah, and that shocked the shit out of me because they're like, put
Right here.
But
Yep,
this
no, I got you.
platform, it creates that enough space to let introverted people, social anxiety, just kind of fucking shine for once, because I'm sick of just charismatic, extroverted people getting all the
Hey, welcome
attention.
in.
And that's why you have a bunch of other kinds of YouTube channels, right? But
Yeah,
YouTube also has a space for authenticity, and it has a space for just like allowing people that never, getting them to shine. And in the comic book community, we really fucking let everyone shine like I've never seen in any other
I
community.
know. Yeah,
Besides kink, I mentioned it's a sort of a joke, but besides the kink community
kid community is glorious. It's
and
another community I'm part
and
of.
also, so I was also anti social media.
Okay,
I still am to a large degree, but
fair.
YouTube I've discovered is such a unique platform because it's like you see my face, and I can say shit and you can comment all the negative shit you want, but you can also come on a live stream and you're not gonna. So it never gets as fractious and vitriolic in YouTube as it does in Instagram and Facebook and all the others because there's too many barriers, right? But
Yeah.
YouTube is the face, and it's just much harder to poop on a human face when you see it. It's really not as easy. It's easier to like look up and poop and there's a face under there and it's gonna hit that face and it's good, right? But if you're like looking at that face and you still
Yeah,
gotta
like,
poop and you even see the poop coming out, you're gonna be like, no, I can't do this. I can't do it. Even if it's out, you won't be able to do it because there's something about looking at the face. And I think that's it. And a lot of us are from COVID, right? A lot of us here because of COVID,
absolutely.
which already like implies a sense of vulnerable. We already come in vulnerable. Like there is this. We all know unconsciously that we all came in a vulnerable place in society, whatever.
Yeah, because of
And then
fear.
we're saying hi to each other. It's like a place where you're allowed to be vulnerable, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing. Oh man, I'm just. I just wish people could love themselves more because they don't. I don't think they realize what a miracle
Absolutely.
each person is.
Somebody
There's
who has a channel, real fast. Somebody who has a channel made their first YouTube appearance on one of my deleted streams because they needed help setting up, getting the right angle, and getting that other stuff done. And we just walked them through it. Like it's so thing. Go ahead and say what you're saying. And then I have two
No,
questions based off of
no,
what you
that's
said.
I don't know what I'm saying. I'm just ranting, man.
That's perfect. Okay. Then you said God bless the comic community. I need to know which God.
Comic book community. Oh,
Which God though?
God's bless. So
Okay, thank you. All right, cool.
when I do my own meditation or whatever, there's a part of my meditation where I give energy to all of the gods. And when I mean the gods, I mean any persona or person. I saw that comment already.
You already responded. Sorry, I just got there.
No, it's cool. It's cool.
Gods.
Celebrities are really the new gods, right? Right now,
Fair.
I think people put ideas of perfection and listen to the words of celebrities like they're God, like they're perfect beings, but they're so not perfect. They're just humans, right?
Yeah.
And we've kind of lost touch. But there's some I don't know, there's good people, right? And then there's certain Buddhas, there's certain Hindu things, there's like whatever thing people believe in that tells them they should love each other, whether it be Ellen or Buddha, whether it be like, I don't know, whoever. I can't think of celebrities right now, but
That's fine.
I give energy to
Picture your own
all,
celebrity. Yeah.
all of the icons and entities that become ideas for people to be inspired by to be better.
Okay.
But they are not special. They're just vessels that are channeling this idea of love. So all the gods, no one god is special. They are all all the gods, Buddha, Krishna, whatever. They're channeling the same one simple idea that we're all one. We gotta love each other. And any icon, anything that generates that sort of inspires that sort of belief in humanity, I give energy to all of those things. Like
Cool.
that's one of the.
Why
What
not?
was your
Yeah.
question? Did you ask a
Is
question? I don't.
my question was which god?
Oh, which god? Which god? All the gods. Yeah.
Because even like the God of the Bible references other gods in the Bible. So I'm just like, how
Yeah,
can
yeah.
you
He's
sit there and say
jealous.
that? Yeah.
Oh, I would
Don't-
say you mentioned you studied a lot of religions, right?
yeah, I've studied about 12 and I still have about like I don't know, 40 more to go or something. So
Are they mostly in the Judeo-Christian lineage?
no, not at all. I think like 5 of them.
Okay. Oh,
Oh, so half. Okay, so about half. About half are in Judeo-Christian.
because
Yeah.
Islam, Judaism, Christian,
Yeah.
that's all part of the Judeo-Christian.
Yeah.
All the yeah,
So I'd say about half.
because like Buddhism has a lineage with Hinduism, and they have a
Correct.
lot of similar principles. And in fact, Americans thought Buddhism was Hinduism for a long time until the late 19th century, I think. And Helena Blavatsky and the Theosophy movement, they were
Yeah.
the original New Agers, the original New Age. They still exist. They're called Theosophy.
Yep.
They had those weird ads like in comics a long time ago too. There'd be like weird ads in
Oh,
old
really?
magazines. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
To about the wisdom teachings and anyway, yeah, that's when Buddhism started to become unknown to the West. It was through them, through this first wave of the New Age. That was the first big wave of the New Age, and it was like 1870s, I think, something like that. And
Okay. Pretty fascinating. Hey, that's
anyway,
actually really. That's cool.
I just think the religions of the Eastern religions are they're so different because they're not necessarily about creating rule sets. They're not
No.
like obsessed with doctrine and rule. They're just trying. They're almost more philosophical than religion.
Okay.
Religious like because they allow a lot more space to look at other religions and
Yeah, freedom. Like you're not
yeah,
like you have to believe this and everybody else is liars. Like what?
and that's a very Judeo-Christian thing. Like and I mean it's happening with the Hindus and the Muslims right now, but that was also a 20th century like Muslim and Hindus, they didn't fucking kill each other all day. That was a creation of the British Empire in the 20th century. There was a lot of historical like no one cared before the decolonization of India. Like no one cared if your neighbor was this and that and that, and like it was sort of like the beauty of India was like so many different religions, and this idea that they're mortal ancient enemies was kind of propagandized into society to kind of fuck up India. And now they like are pointing nukes at each other. And I'm like, you guys, this is a fucking made up story. Like,
Yeah. Oh yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. It was like a folk tale that was like ingrained so that they could like raise people to like hate the other people. And then all of a sudden it just like perpetuated and became too real. Yeah, no, I'm familiar. I'm
uh,
stealing that by the way. Is that cool?
what?
The
Stealing what?
dynamic existential duo.
Oh, oh.
I like that. Thank you, Nick.
Max Comics and Kramer Coach is my favorite show, etc. Know that I can send a link. No, etc. Me, no. And I
I've
can
been
send.
on one show. Okay. My favorite show. Oh
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I know though. I know
Oh, I don't know
Max
these.
and
I don't know these shows.
so Max Comics and Creamer and Cash, they
Mm.
are YouTube comic book auctioneers, basically.
Okay, okay.
And they're both female, and
Oh, okay.
they have a show called My Favorite Show, and Tate has apparently been on it.
Wow, I'm jealous, Tate.
Thank you very much, Nick, and also thanks for not charging me. But yeah, we're actually cruising right into the end, so I'm going to bring up a very large topic. We're going to talk about loss and the fear of loss. And no, we might have to say that for next show because we only have like a couple minutes left.
Oh.
We like to keep things around 90. I was just bulling Dink's like because like I prefaced this entire show saying like, oh, we're gonna talk about loss. I mean, we could. It's unfair. It needs more time to be talked about, and that'll be my tune in next time everybody, and thank you very much for joining for another episode of the Dynamic Existential Duo. Thanks again. Dave's gonna get
Yeah,
back to cooking, and
and
go for
yeah,
it.
and love you all, yo. Like I'm fucking dead ass. I'm not even fucking playing. Like it just
Well put.
yeah, I don't know.